Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some very intriguing news coming out over here when it comes to the big supplier and maker of both the Xbox and PlayStation 5, where they actually have a chance to now go and leak all the actual development numbers, making numbers, and it's kind of been going astronomical, especially in regards when it comes to PlayStation, Sony, and all their big contractual needs. We also have some big updates too when it comes to the Xbox Series S that is currently still on sale for $150 still. We see this kind of offer popping up and off all throughout the day. We're actually now figuring out the actual PlayStation best games and some other little sad news to go and talk about. So let's go and talk about it. Make sure you guys are, if you guys are brand new, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Twitter and Twitch down below. We have the Target links. We have the Amazon links down below. And I appreciate you guys all so much here for watching in the first place. Let's go and dive on into some very intriguing news. So as you guys know, when it comes to consoles and, well, making consoles, you have to physically make them. You have to have suppliers, makers, and everything in between. And, well, most of the time when that does go and happen, it does seemingly show that, well, you gotta go pay a lot of money, and if you want to make a lot of consoles, gotta spend a lot of money to go keep on making those consoles being made. So for this one, we actually have some intriguing information articles coming out over here when it comes to Sony and their connection with AMD, and it's also why they're probably actually gonna be selling a lot more consoles. Sony has thrown out the big bucks, they're investing pretty heavily, and it does kind of seem like AMD has a pretty nice connection going on over here when it does come with Sony. So Sony becomes AMD's largest customer on the booming PS5 sales, where gaming was AMD's largest business, funny enough, in 2022, which is also surprising as well, with all these big game companies more so focusing on things like cloud hosting, cloud gaming, cloud computing, or if you look at NVIDIA, even like their GeForce, basically streaming components. So it's intriguing to see that AMD is kind of sticking the traditional route and just working with consoles at the end of the day. So Sony became actually AMD's largest customer as of last year, accounting now for 16% of the entire company's revenue, which is insane because AMD is one of the biggest companies on the planet, especially in the semiconductor and tech side. So the fact that Sony is 16% of their contract weight, that's pretty big. So basically with this one, the PlayStation 5 increased its lead now even bigger over all the other competitors, and Suravan Krujandara, which I completely said wrong, a semiconductor industry analyst, noted that if Zillig's results are excluded, Sony actually accounts for 20% of AMD's revenue, probably making it the company's largest customer in recent history. Now, Zavi is a big fan when it comes to consoles, because you obviously have to make the consoles, develop the consoles, all that type of good stuff. And if you guys are not, then, well, what's the point? So they're not making the consoles, so they can't sell the consoles, and then the Sony huge ecosystem can't keep evolving and growing. So indeed, the gaming business unit was AMD's largest revenue generator, which indicates the sales of systems on chips for even the Microsoft Xbox Series X and X consoles were also strong. So it's like it's a good like all tides type, rising type thing, where everyone wants to buy the PlayStation, they're gonna probably have some competitive offers, and then Xbox wants to sell them and compete with PlayStation, they're also gonna have some pretty good competitive offers. We're gonna have to go from there. So basically with that one, it does seem like AMD sold Sony some $3.776 billion worth of chips for PlayStation 5 game consoles in 2022, which accounted for 16% of the company's revenue for the year, according to the company's filing with the SEC. So that's kind of a lot of money. Spend a few $1 billion or so making profit on every console too as well. Not bad. Sony confirmed that at CES that they had sold now over 30 million PlayStation 5 game consoles, and the VG charts estimates by now the life to date is probably around more of the 32 billion if we round up a little bit on the sales. Microsoft's Xbox Series X and S consoles are by far not as successful as Sony's systems, with LTD shipments of around 20.68 million, which is also around the same numbers we've been expecting. Before it was around like the 30 to 18, but obviously as like the months, they're usually about like a month or two behind. That does seem a little bit more of the realistic numbers. So just want to actually go look through all these actual charts themselves. We're trying to make it a little bit bigger. You guys can go and see over here for the fourth quarter. Let me move myself up just a little bit over here so you guys can see me. Where I was going to look at some of these types of things over here, where the net revenues over here on gaming. Net revenue on gaming was 1.6, operating income was 266, and as well, you guys can kind of look through the comparisons on over here of all the prior quarters. So it was actually a huge number one up on the revenue and also on the operating income, but as well, if you guys specifically go look at the gaming side, very good. Now, we still always keep on looking at the data center type stuff because these are actually the big booms, and they also have really big, huge gross margins. Look at this, 64%, even operating income going up. But it just kind of goes to show that the gaming revenue is still actually doing kind of all right. Now, it's like kind of being maintaining as best as it possibly can. They already have their numbers with it, but it does seem pretty good. So in fact, AMD's gaming business unit, which sells discrete graphics processors for desktop, graphics cards, and notebooks, as well as SoCs for game consoles, so like the specific Sony or specific Xbox consoles, earned around $6.8 billion in earnings and $953 million in profits last year. It was the company's main source of revenue. Keeping in mind that the recent quarters and unit sales of AMD's standalone GPUs have declined based on the data from John Petty Research, console SoCs accounted for the lion's share of AMD's gaming business revenue. So it just kind of goes that these consoles are still going strong, and these consoles are still working good, and people are still buying these consoles. Gaming revenue declined 7% year over year, though, to $1.6 billion in quarter 4 2022, as lower gaming graphics sales more than offset higher semi-custom revenue, said Lisa Su, chief executive of AMD. At the company's most recent earnings call via Seeking Alpha, semi-custom SoC revenue grew year over year as demand for game consoles remained strong during the holidays. Gaming graphics revenue declined year over year as we further reduced desktop GPU downstream channel inventory. But AMD's earnings from PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S SoCs will likely decline in 2023 and onwards, since sales of consoles usually peak in their third year, and platform holders tend to negotiate components pricing after that. So it does kind of seem like AMD's gaming side might go lower, just because with PlayStation, they might be like, hey, tech has evolved. You guys have been making these for a while. We probably don't have to make as much, so let's try to work out a deal. Like, instead of like a 10% premium, let's maybe work in like a 7%. We might not do as many sales, but we're still going to be here, or people are still going to be buying it. But as you guys probably know, like year 3 or so into a console life cycle, it gets a little smidgen less interesting, a little smidgen less good. Less people are buying it, or people already have their consoles, they will already have it. So it's going to seem like AMD long term, it might go down a little bit, but it's also why you have these big companies also focusing on maybe, say, a PlayStation 5 Pro, Xbox Series X Pro, and the cloud hosting gaming division, which also had that huge 80% plus revenue growth. Does seem pretty good. So given we're on the cycle, we would expect gaming to be down on a year-over-year basis in the future, but as of right now, it's still been going good. Analysts and investors tend to praise AMD's data center EPYC processors. They've been the company's key profit driver for about 6 years now, and I've mentioned that before with this and NVIDIA. In 2022, AMD's data center earned around $6 billion in revenue and was behind the company's gaming unit, $6.8 billion, as well as client computing group, $6.2 billion. Yet based on softening demand for the PC and game console cycle, it looks like AMD's data center business will become the company's main source of revenue in 2023. So it's very intriguing to see these numbers where it seems like it was a huge growth driver. The console sales are still there, people still care, but it does seem like it's a little bit more on the chiller side. So big, interesting news for that. Now, if you guys want to see some sad news, Wolf Among Us was actually pushed. I'm really hyped up for this game, basically for the part 2 of it, and it was actually pushed for next year, though, because, well, the game, they just want to avoid the crunch as best as we can. They say making games is difficult, and they need time to do it right, and it doesn't do any of us any good to ship something that isn't ready. And the best thing they could have made, too, as well. So they want to make sure their game, as they're switching from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5, they want to make sure the game is good, the quality is good, the audio is good, and they're also saying if this game is not actually like a good game that people are proud of, people are going to turn it to shreds and they're going to hate it. The expectations are pretty high, and we want time to meet those. We want to be proud of it and know it, saying, hey, this is the best game we could have made. Let the world say what they will once it's done, but we at least know that in these times, in these conditions, this is the best game we could have made, which I think is respectable. I really want to play the game myself, but the fact that I'd rather have a game that works and is good and I enjoy, rather than a game that's mediocre at the end of the day that we're not going to really enjoy. So I got to give them a little bit of a thumbs up for all of that, at least in my opinion. So give me your thoughts and comments on that down below. Now, reminders, we actually have still been seeing the Verizon customers $150 off deal for the Xbox Series S. This has still been going on and off all throughout the day. So in case you guys have been curious on that or want to go get that, if you guys want to creep on it, I think it's a pretty good deal too as well. I myself probably would still do it. It's a good price. Maybe you're in college, maybe younger, or you have kids. Not the world's worst thing, but keep it in mind. Now, last but not least, we actually had Sony go and reveal the best game so far for the PlayStation consoles, and they had some big polls for folks to go and see, and it seemed like a lot of these are kind of cool. So you guys can see some of these. We can kind of go through the list, but basically God of War, as you guys probably know, is probably one of the best games out there. So God of War Ragnarok beat Elden Ring Let's also don't forget like the PlayStation 5 bias, Horizon Forbidden West and Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut for the best game, and also to go and overtake The Last of Us Part 1, Elden Ring, and Horizon Forbidden West 2 for the best graphical showcase. And as well, every single one of those games are huge regardless, so they're hyped for and all that. But don't forget about those cute little indie games such as Stray, who did go hit the best indie game. Astro's Playroom was the one that was crowned for the best with the DualSense controller capabilities. And of course, as well, once again, God of War Ragnarok was one of the best games as of the last year. So give me your thoughts and comments and everything down below. And make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Twitter and Twitch stream down below. We have the Target links down below, Amazon links down below, and leave a like and subscribe. And we'll have more videos all throughout tomorrow.